Hey guys, welcome back to Ducks Hockey and More. Talking trade rumors in this video. As always, seems like I've been doing a lot of that, but as I said before, this is the time of the year. This is an exciting time of the year, but there's a lot of trade talk out there. Things are heating up. We got 1 week left. Stick around. All right, so let's get into this. We got some trade rumors and some trades to actually talk about as well. So let's dive right into some of these trades that have been going down as things are starting to heat up. We got 1 week left. Some big names have been moved, but let's dive into some of the latest things that have happened in the last week. So let's just go into the Rangers and the Canucks. They made a deal. Rangers sent Vitaly Kravtsov to the Canucks. And New York basically got a guy named William Lockwood and a 7th round pick. So Kravtsov, basically a guy that he had 3 goals, 3 assists in 28 games for New York. Struggling, I don't know. They didn't have a spot for him on the roster. Things just weren't working out. So, hey, in a lot of situations like that, as much as you don't want to give up a player that works hard for you and has some potential, it just isn't happening. It's not gelling, so you move him. And maybe he'll have a better career and a fresh start in Vancouver. And Vancouver obviously likes what they saw in him as a potential depth signing and could be, bottom 6 kind of forward guy. Who knows? Maybe better. It just depends. Maybe all of a sudden this sparks his career. Either way, he was a first-round pick of the New York Rangers, so here's one of those guys where he's a first-rounder taken, I think he was 9th overall by New York. This was back in 2018. So, New York obviously didn't get what they wanted out of him. He was a first-round pick that kind of was a flop so far. Maybe this reinvigorates him. We'll see, right? We'll see. We'll see how he does in Vancouver. So that was one of the trades that happened this week. Another one, more recent one, Nino Niederreiter. A recent signing by the Nashville Predators in the offseason. I think they signed him to a 2-year deal, if I remember correctly. They've already shipped him out. He's gone. He is now a Winnipeg Jet, Nino Niederreiter. So a good signing by Nashville. Basically, with Nashville in the standings and where they're positioned, not looking like they're going to make it, decided let's sell. So he's gone. He is now a Jet. Now, I think this really helps the Winnipeg Jets in a big way. The Jets are kind of struggling. They're barely kind of hanging in there in the Central Division. I think they have a great team, great goaltending, great defense, great everything, really. They just need to get it together. Maybe Nino Niederreiter is the spark they need to give them that push. Because right now, them and the Dallas Stars are struggling a little bit. And Colorado and Minnesota are coming, okay? So Nino Niederreiter goes to the Jets. I think that's a good signing for the Jets to make a push for the playoffs and solidify that offensive punch that they need, and maybe it's a good thing for them. Nashville in that one, they get a 2nd round pick in the 2024 draft. So really, it's not even in this draft. So quite honestly, I feel like Winnipeg won that trade, but either way. His stats this year so far for Niederreiter were 18 goals, 10 assists in 56 games. So not bad, 18 goals. So the Jets definitely get a good offensive depth player that can play probably a middle 6 role, something like that. He'll be on the 2nd or 3rd line. So I think that's a good one for the Jets. So moving on, we've got some more to talk about. Let's talk Capitals. Washington Capitals just made a trade with Boston a few days ago. Now, Boston, I've been talking about in other trade rumor videos. Where are they going to go out and get a Chychrun? Gavrikov was highly linked to Boston. I almost thought that was going to happen since both Chychrun and Gavrikov have been held out of their lineups by their respective teams. I read that Gavrikov and Boston, that whole situation was going to happen. It was likely going to happen. But obviously, again, trade rumors, they were completely off, not right. So Dmitry Orlov of the Washington Capitals, a name I've never mentioned in any of my trade rumor videos because it just really hasn't been any talk about the guy. He is now a Boston Bruin. So Washington sends Orlov to Boston as well as Garnet Hathaway. So Boston, basically in this trade, it's kind of like the Toronto trade when they traded for O'Reilly. This is Boston's way of saying, hey, we're going for it. There's that depth defenseman that we kind of thought they were going to go after. And then the Hathaway as well adds a lot of depth to that team. So I think Boston just made their team even better. And, they're going to make that run. I mean, they are the number one team in the NHL, and I think they're going to go far. This is going to help them, right? This is going to help them. Boston sent to Washington now quite a bit, quite the haul for Washington in this case. So Boston only gets the 2 players. Washington got Craig Smith, just a depth guy, first round draft pick in this coming year's draft, 2023, a third rounder in 2024, and a second rounder in 2025. So they get quite a bit for those 2 players. Minnesota was involved in that trade too. Minnesota's prospect Andrei Svetlikov, okay, is what Boston got from Minnesota. Minnesota got a 2023 5th-round selection. So interesting there that Minnesota's even involved in that. But long story short, the big part of that, Orlov is now a Boston Bruin. Boston's making they're going to go for it, man. They're going all in. Something else. Let's see. Boston also dealt goaltender Keith Kincaid to the Colorado Avalanche. Now, this is a depth thing. Colorado is looking at this as, okay, we're making our run for the playoffs again. And then obviously they're going to make to try to repeat, right? And they need goaltending depth. They need, in case there's injury in the playoffs, in case there's any issues, you got to have those guys in the wings and in the shadows that can come up and fill in and actually be pretty good. Okay. Georgiev for Colorado has been playing very well. He has his moments, but for the most part, he's playing very well. Kincaid will end up reporting to their AHL affiliate, and he'll be down there basically and as a depth goaltender in case something happens. So I think that's a good thing for Colorado. Boston got, what did they got? Shane Bowers, an AHL guy. So it's just basically some depth swapping. Okay, a lot, types of things that you'll see that kind of fly under the radar. Nothing, not a big deal, but either way, Boston and Colorado were involved with that. Chicago acquired defenseman Nikita Zaitsev and a second-round 2023 pick, okay, and a fourth-round pick in 2026 for future consideration. So, and that was with the Ottawa Senators. So Ottawa didn't get anything. Future considerations usually mean zip. So Ottawa was obviously making these were money things, moving people off the roster, off the books. Chicago actually did pretty well then. They got Zaitsev, but they also got a second-round pick in this coming draft and a fourth-rounder in 2026. So, hey, not bad for Chicago on that one. Moving on, what else have we seen? Another trade that just happened, actually. Evgeny Dadonov of the Montreal Canadiens is now a Dallas Star. Dadonov is now in Dallas, and Montreal gets Denis Gurianov. Gurianov of the Stars is now in Montreal. But this is another one of those trades where Dadonov hasn't been doing the greatest. He was dealt. It was funny, last deadline, the Ducks tried to acquire Evgeny Dadonov, and that got rejected. But he ended up going to Montreal. And obviously, he's not doing that great. In fact, I didn't write it down, darn it. His numbers aren't the greatest. And I think for Montreal, in the position they're in, we're better off just moving him. Dallas was a willing taker for that. And Gurianov of the Stars is now, who got shipped to Montreal, it just hasn't been working out. Dallas and Gurianov, there needed to be a change, right? I mean, so this makes a lot of sense. Now, is Dadonov going to be what Dallas needs to start things up? Because they're kind of slipping and sliding right now. I don't think so. I think Dadonov helps. He adds some depth. He can put the puck in the net. He's a pretty good forward. But is it going to make or break them getting in? And no, it's not like the O'Reilly type of trade. No way. Or the Tarasenko type of trade. Even that trade, Tarasenko, he's got, I think, 2 goals and 2 assists with New York since he's in like 6 or 7 games he's played already with them. But New York's been sliding a little bit. They've lost some games. So, you know what I mean? So you never know, and the Tarasenko trade for New York could turn around and get really good. That could turn out to be a really, really good signing if he starts to gel and get better. Or it could just be a big flop, you know what I mean? And not really amount to much at all. So either way, that was the latest trade that I just saw this morning. So there you go. That's about it I got on that. So let's talk a little bit about rumors, okay? Some of the things I've been reading recently on the rumor mill, Pittsburgh, okay? Pittsburgh Penguins and coach Mike Sullivan. Mike Sullivan would love to go to see Ron Hextall pull the trigger and get a Jacob Chychrun. Pittsburgh's sliding, okay? They're holding on desperately to that wild card spot. And quite honestly, I have a feeling they're not going to make the playoffs. I really, really feel like the Buffalo Sabres and the Detroit Red Wings are going to sneak into that wild card spot, and Pittsburgh's not even going to make the playoffs. That's just my opinion and prediction, because those two teams are playing very well, whereas Pittsburgh and the other team, and I can't think of it right now, but I just don't see Pittsburgh, with the way they're playing and the way things are going, to make the playoffs. Unfortunately, and it's going to be it's going to be time for Pittsburgh to think about, what are they going to do? Are they going to retool? Are they going to go into a full rebuild? I don't know that that's necessary, but they definitely need to retool that team and start. They might as well just become sellers, but they might become buyers and try to keep and maintain that playoff presence this year. So we'll see. But apparently Mike Sullivan is very interested in Jacob Chychrun and would love to see him. Ron Hextall, not so much, because of Arizona's asking price. Hextall is like, I don't want to give up that kind of, prospect pool, and potential players and picks and things like that. And I understand where Hextall's coming from. They are asking quite a bit, Arizona is, for Jacob Chychrun. But, it's interesting to read that the coach really wants him. The GM's like, I don't think so. So anyway, something I read, pretty interesting stuff. What else? Timo Meier. Timo Meier is probably the biggest name right now currently on the market. I would even say that, he's probably the top to name now that Jacob Chychrun rumors have he is still a very high Chychrun. But Timo Meier, who's a prolific scorer, he's going to get moved, and I think it's going to happen any day now. We've got a week to go. But who's in on Timo Meier? So the latest two teams that really want Timo Meier. New Jersey Devils, I've talked about it before in previous videos. The Devils seem to be the number one team in on him. Another team that's kind of come out of nowhere that's interested in Timo Meier is the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, interesting enough, Vegas just made a trade today as well for Ivan Barbashev from the St. Louis Blues. So does that change the Vegas outlook on Timo Meier? I don't know. I don't know. Vegas is pretty high, is close to the cap. How are they going to make something like that work? I really don't know. There might be a third team involved with a trade like that, but the Barbashev deal with Vegas and St. Louis, quite honestly, I feel like that just kind of takes them out of the running. Now, here's what I think, okay? I'm going out on a limb. This is just my opinion. But I feel like even though New Jersey is probably where Timo Meier will end up, don't count out St. Louis. The St. Louis Blues, they have 3 first-round picks in this upcoming draft. With the trades they've made, they've acquired now 3 first-round, well, they have 3 first-round picks. So when you have that kind of bargaining chip, the San Jose Sharks might look at St. Louis, and the St. Louis will say, "I'll give you both for 2 first rounders for that cat." How could you say no to that? How could you say no to that, right? So I don't know. Interesting stuff. So right now, here's my prediction: it's either going to be New Jersey or St. Louis, in my opinion. Now that could completely come completely out of left field, and some other team jumps in the race, and it's just like, who would have thought that, right? Happens all the time. But New Jersey or St. Louis Blues, Timo Meier, that's what I think is going to happen. One of those two teams. And I think St. Louis might have a good shot at landing him, only because of how many first rounders they have. They have a lot of collateral with that to offer to another team for some, San Jose in this case and Timo Meier. So anyways, don't count the Blues out of that Timo Meier race. But think about Timo Meier going to the New Jersey Devils, which is what everybody thinks is going to happen. Oh, dude, can you believe it? The Devils are already this offensive, juggernaut, in terms of their production and what they're capable of doing. Jack Hughes and all these players. Jesper Bratt, add Timo Meier to that bunch and that group. Wow. Okay, it's almost, when you really think about it, it's almost kind of unfair to other teams, but it might happen. And boy, does that give the New Jersey Devils, who are already well on their way into the playoffs, and they're going to make a lot of noise, but add Timo Meier to that group, and wow, they're going to give Boston, Toronto, Carolina a run for their money. So, so there you go. Those are some of the rumors floating around out there. I did hear some things about Patrick Kane, sitting out a game, and and Kane what's he going to do? Are the Rangers still in on Kane? Is Chris Drury going to pull that trigger and actually go for him? I don't know. That's yet to be seen. Possibly. Here's something that's interesting. The Detroit Red Wings. Okay, Detroit. I did a whole video on the Tyler Bertuzzi situation, and then there's the Dylan Larkin situation in Detroit. Both players need contracts. Steve Yzerman has not figured it out yet with their agents and gotten something done, right? So what is he going to do? We got a week left here, trade deadline. But the Detroit Red Wings are playing very well, and I feel like they're going to squeeze in and get a wild card spot. I really do. So if they make this move and push and are going to make the playoffs, which it looks like they're going to do, does Stevie Y add somebody? Do they go and become buyers and add somebody really good to that team? Go sign up Bertuzzi, sign up Larkin, add another player and go, okay, let's do this? That's not far-fetched, really, when you think about it. I mean, I think Steve Yzerman's probably looking at it going, we could potentially make the playoffs. Who could I possibly add to this team and make that a real deal? Okay, but he still has to figure out those two situations with Larkin and Bertuzzi. So figure it out, Stevie Y. I really want to see what happens. The Red Wings getting into the playoffs as a wild card and an underdog and something like that would be very interesting in the East, and it'd be fun to watch and fun to see. So interesting stuff. Okay, the other team on that in the same situation, okay, are the Buffalo Sabres. They've been playing very well. Buffalo might be a buyer. They're not in the playoffs right now, but just like Detroit, they're making their way there. So they could potentially be a wild card team and make some noise. But will they be buyers to try to make that happen? What do they really need? Me personally, I feel like they need goaltending, okay? Only because they need somebody to be a rock solid number one in net. And they have the goaltending depth, and they have some really young goaltenders that are very good. So they don't have to give up on all that, but maybe give up on one of their goaltenders, their younger prospects that's pretty good. And it'd be hard to do, but at the same time, what if you went out and got like a John Gibson from the Anaheim Ducks? You add him. John's in Buffalo. Solidified, good number one goaltender. And you give up one of your prospect goaltenders to the Ducks, who are in rebuild, right? It makes sense to me. Buffalo fans might not agree with me. And if you're from Buffalo and you're watching this, definitely comment below and tell me what you think. But I know you guys would have a tough time giving up on some of your youthful goaltending prospects that are coming up. But Buffalo needs that solidified number one goaltender in net, and that could really, really push them. Not only this year, if they make the playoffs, but next year and the year after. Gibson's in his prime right now. He's 30. He's got a good 4, maybe 5 years left of solid goaltending left him. The guy stands on his head for Anaheim every night. He's good, really good. If he plays for a team that has better defense in front of him, he's even better. So think about it. Buffalo, I think they're going to go after somebody or something and become buyers here pretty soon. Or maybe in the next week here before the deadline. They might just go for it. So the last team I want to talk about real quick are the Edmonton Oilers. Edmonton. Oh man, they just recently lost to Columbus. It was like 6-5. But that's kind of what I wanted to talk about is Edmonton's defense. I've talked about it before. And the only thing that you ever hear about the Edmonton Oilers is defense. They're looking at defenders. When I talk about a defender on any team that's potentially going to be moved, what teams linked to that player? The Edmonton Oilers. Almost every defenseman that's on the market right now, the Edmonton Oilers are looking at. So there is no doubt that the Edmonton Oilers need to solidify their defense and their blue line because they are porous. They're like the Anaheim Ducks. They look horrible out there. They give up way too much, way too much. So if their offense is unbelievable, what they need to do is stop letting the puck in the net. Goaltending wise too is kind of a question mark. Campbell and Skinner. Skinner's obviously been playing way better than Campbell, but man, I don't know. Can Skinner carry him in the playoffs? Maybe. But they really need to figure out their defense. I mean, if they can figure that out, the goaltending will probably improve. In fact, I know it will. But man, do they just need to get some defenders? And I think they need a couple, not just one. They need a couple. So Edmonton, what are you going to do, man? Do something. Holy crap. You guys are good. Got lots of offense. To me, you're a threat to go back to the conference final in the West. In fact, I have a feeling it might be a repeat of Edmonton against Colorado in the Western Conference final. I really do. But Edmonton has to solidify their defense first, and they need to get somebody in there. A couple of good defenders that can basically shut it down, probably a good puck-moving defenseman and a good stay-at-home guy that can hit you and, make you think twice. But anyways, there you go. Hey, love talking trade rumors. We got a week to go. Friday, March 3rd, I think by like noon, it's done, okay? So a lot of crazy stuff's going to start happening. The last few days, a lot of trades have been happening. Well, just wait, man. This whole week is going to be nuts. So you got to stay tuned to the NHL and all the trades, and I will talk about every single one of them. Maybe not right as they happen, but I will talk about them, dissect them, break them down. Rumors wise, I'm not going to be talking too much rumors anymore because we only got a week left. So rumors, it's all about what's going to be happening in the next week. Who's going where, we'll talk about it. So, hey, thanks for watching, guys. As always, you got to help me blow this channel up. Subscribe, comment, like that, smash that like button, but definitely subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next one.